So good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Tahoe-Truckee's online live streaming service. And it's my joy to welcome you here. I'm Reverend Pam Brandman, Senior Minister here at the Center. We'd like to remind everyone that our Center's purpose is love. Our new vision is embracing all and serving with love while awakening to the One. Whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. We know that there are many paths to God, and we recognize that they all end in oneness and in love. We're grateful that each of you is here today. So we begin our service with a receptivity statement. So if you would read along with me while staying muted. I am here by divine appointment. Something I am about to hear applies to my life. I am open, receptive, and willing to explore the possibilities. So our musician this morning is Super Doyle. And Super says that he is into art, music, and conscious living, and he writes much of his own music and lyrics. He's a master of an eclectic range of musical styles, including meditation music, alternative rock, reggae, and some conscious indie music. You can listen to or download his music on YouTube, on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play. So Super tells me that he and his new band are been practicing a lot, and they are starting to book or hoping to book new gigs in the Tahoe area as we gradually reopen. So here is Super Doyle.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Pam, for such a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. And yeah, I think we're playing at Alibi on the 22nd. I think that'll be our next performance. That's great. I'm going to perform an instrumental, peaceful piece of music for everybody. So hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Subra. And that leads us right into our morning meditation. And Reverend Rick Carney is our practitioner this morning. He's doing double duty as both our host and our practitioner. And we're blessed to have him serve our center. Science of Mind has transformed Reverend Rick's life, and he loves to share his personal story and his spiritual wisdom with us. And this coming week, Rick and his wife Marie were going to be off on another adventure together and on a well-deserved vacation. So please help me welcome Reverend Rick Carney to provide this morning's invocation and special reading.
Thank you, Reverend Pam. And all of us who have grandchildren know exactly what type of adventure they can be. So looking forward to meeting my granddaughter, Victoria House, for the very first time and celebrate her first birthday. It is my pleasure to be here. Let's take a moment and go within and reconnect with the spirit in our heart and our soul, because that's where spirit resides each and every moment of each and every day. And I know that this time that we spend together has been blessed through the grace of God, bringing forth all those things that we consider good: love, life, peace, power, beauty, joy, wisdom, and just blessings innumerable. And I know that our time that we spend is a time that Spirit is connecting us on a level which is sublime and mystical. And it all resides within the one. Because our Spirit comes forth with all of these blessings, it is blessing us as well as itself. For it is through us that it expresses here on the earthly plane. And I know that this time is a time for us to recharge and to reconnect in a way that gives us the energy and the impulse to move forward for a greater expression of all these blessings in the world. And so I thank God for this. I thank God for this life, for this knowing, for this ability to bring forth all those blessings to my community, near and far, to my family, to my human family, and to all life. May I be a blessing to the world this day. Amen. Our theme this month is Holy, Holy Uprising. And Reverend Pam will be speaking a little bit later on about this too is God. We look forward to that word. But before then, I'd like to do a reading from the Science of Mind textbook. It's on page 322 is where it begins. And Ernest Holmes writes, "Life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks into it. The more spiritual the thought, the higher its manifestation. Spiritual thought means an absolute belief in and reliance upon truth. This is both natural and normal. All is love, and yet all is law. Love is the impelling force, and law executes the will of love. Man is the center of God consciousness in the great whole. He cannot deface his real being, but may hinder the whole from coming into a complete expression through his life. Turning to the one with a complete abandonment and an absolute trust, he will find that he is already saved, healed, and prospered. There is one infinite mind from which all things come. This mind is through, in, and around man. It is the only mind there is, and every time man thinks he uses it, he thinks he uses it. There is one infinite spirit, and every time man says, I am, he proclaims it. There is one infinite substance, and every time man moves, he moves in it. There is one infinite law, and every time man thinks, he sets this law in motion. There is one infinite God, and every time man speaks to this God, he receives a direct answer. One, one, one. I am God, and there is none else. There is one limitless life, which returns to the thinker exactly what he thinks into it. One, one, one. In all, over all, and through all. Talk, live, act, believe, and know that you are the center in this one. And so it is. And I'd like to invite Subra to come back and give us more of his blessing of music.
Thank you so much. This song is kind of just chose it this morning on the theme of the talk today. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoy. Close your eyes and I kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll ride home every day, and I send all my loving to you. Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll ride home every day, and I send all my loving to you. All my loving, darling, I'll be true. All my loving, I will send to you. Thank you, folks.
Thank you so much, Subra. You know, I think all of our loving, there's a lot of places around the world that really need that this morning. Thinking about in India with what's happening there, still happening in Brazil and so many countries that some don't even have their first vaccine. And then also hearing the news about the conflict going on in Israel, in Palestine again. And so there's a lot of loving that's needed. And that leads me into our talk for today. You know, there's a lot of topics that we avoid talking about. And when we don't talk about them, things just fester. They don't necessarily open up to the light of day. And so what do you consider taboo topics? I know that it's always a joke that if you decide to bring up politics or religion at a family holiday dinner, it's just like picking a fight because that there's going to be someone at the table that has just the polar opposite opinion to yours, and just won't let it go. And what about asking someone to put their face mask on or take it off? Some people will. And now we have that added unknown. Have you been vaccinated yet without your mask? It's a very touchy kind of subject. And who is our president is a very political decision to some people. What about some of those longer standing issues, like who should get water during the drought? Is it urban families, the farmers, the fish, the lawns, the industrial manufacturers? How do we deal best with homelessness? Do we provide temporary housing and maybe some food as well? Do we build more low and moderate income housing? Or is it about helping people get a job and deal with mental health issues? There's so many things that go together. How do we, in some ways it's unsolvable, and it feels so uncomfortable that we just don't want to talk about it. Well, today I would like to ask the question, how much of this social and political activist work should we be concerned with as a New Thought community? How does social justice intersect with the science of mind? Is it something spiritual that we should address? Or is it something worldly that we should just avoid? There's a lot of people that I would like to suggest that whatever situation exists in our world, the answer is always, this too is God. Seeing the spiritual truth beneath the appearances, discovering what is ours to do, and taking action are all part of a holy, holy uprising. Now, in the Centers for Spiritual Living, if we want to be in integrity with our spiritual principles, if we want to walk our talk, as we say it, we have the spiritual tools to be able to put our beliefs into action. And in fact, one of the responsibilities of our spiritual leader, Reverend Edward Villion, is to work with a committee that puts together statements about some of these taboo topics, like the trial of Devon Chauvin, or the Asian American discrimination, or what's happening in the Middle East. We are called to talk about these taboo subjects. We are called to tell the spiritual truth that this too is God. Everything is God. We are all part of God, every one of us. We have the opportunity to demonstrate for humanity how a higher level of consciousness can transform our lives, our centers, our communities, and our world. To do so, we must rise up in a holy, holy uprising. Science of Mind teaches us that our true nature is divine. We are one with God, our Creator. It is the same life force that flows through each one of us. We breathe with one breath, move as part of one being. Sometimes we like to blame our problems on the other, some other person or condition outside of themselves. But this sense of separation is false. You see, in Matthew 25:40, I need the slide now, Michael. So in Matthew 25:40, Jesus told us that inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Right? It's the same God. It's the same Spirit that was in Jesus, and that expresses itself through each sentient being, you and me and everyone. Now, what we do to each other, we are doing in reality to ourselves, to the one. When we rise up to that level, that consciousness of oneness, we can see how to work together with our human brothers and sisters to create a new world based on oneness, loving kindness, and acceptance. Universal mind functions at the level at which we understand it. And this is how we follow our consciousness up to a higher level. In the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes said, "Our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle which, of itself, is without limit. It is ready to fill everything because it is infinite. It is entirely a question of our own receptivity." You see, it's exactly as we accept. If we accept just a little bit of God, a little bit of that greatness, then that's what we get. But if we open ourselves up to something greater, that's what we experience. In the reading this morning, Reverend Rick was talking about the life mirrors back to us what we believe. And so we have to grow what we believe. If we just see that we're just this little person by ourselves, well, then we'll have a little experience. But if we open ourselves up to see that we are part of the whole of God, then we will experience that whole of God and create an avenue for it to manifest in the world. Thank you, Michael. So the ignorance of who we are is what brings suffering. If we believe that we are separate from God and from all those other people, we might find a false sense of unity in saying that all the people in our tribe, our country, our political party, our sex, are united in our fight against them, whoever that them is. You know, it's a scapegoat that's used to unify people, and it's a false basis. You know, there's been too many times in history when people have designated groups like black people, Asians, Jews, foreigners, or people who voted against our candidate as the other, that should be punished, enslaved, demeaned, or even worse, eliminated by genocide. Right? They're inconvenient. Let's get rid of them. Right? I mean, this is the 21st century, and it's still going on. We can heal this suffering whenever we stop and remember our true divine nature, when we let Spirit work in, through, and as us. And furthermore, it is that same infinite and loving Spirit that is in each person. That is our true unity, one with all that is. Now, if God is infinite, that means that there are no limits to God. And so we want to learn to go to God unconditionally. In his book, Spiritual Liberation, Michael Beckwith suggests that we are accustomed to approaching God as if God is the big problem solver. If we have a problem, all we need to do is ask God for help, and God will reliably run whatever earthly errands we ask it to do for us. Right? We can ask God for a new job or a new relationship. Maybe we ask God to cure cancer, to help our favorite team win, or defeat our enemy. You know, we ask God to be on our side, and we rely on that. But what about the part of God that's on the other side of the war, or the relationship? Or is someone else also looking for a job? How does God choose sides? We're all part of the one. You see, we're defining God in our image, in our limited world, for God to help us as just a tiny piece of God. It's a spiritually immature concept of the Godhead. So here's a quote from Michael Beckwith in his book. We don't need to tell God about our big problem. We tell our problem about our big God, just the reverse. In God awareness, problems dissolve because there are no real problems. In the mind of God, there are only perfect patterns of existence and divine ideas. When we realize this, we begin to consciously apply spiritual laws and principles to our seeming problems and challenges. So, this is just a little bit different way of looking at things. So, you see, God, there's a necessity that God works through us. It's not God out there fixing things for us, but it's God working through us and through all people and all things. When we get attached to the outcome that we want, to the solution that we want for our problem, we want this person to get fixed or whatever it is, we are actually trying to limit the infinite. We are demanding what we want. We may pray feverishly, piously, and without ceasingly, and throw a tantrum if it doesn't happen soon enough. but nevertheless, it's trying to limit God. Now, alternatively, we can learn to surrender our attachment to the outcome and instead learn to be still and experience the love of God. Know that the highest and best for all involved is what's unfolding, and that we are aligning our vision and our heart to that unfoldment. We are infinitely loved and treasured by the whole of God. We are intimately connected with God, with all that is. There's no greater love than that. And during meditation, we can let go of our egoic boundaries and desires and experience the goodness, the loving kindness of Spirit. We're surrounded by love. Love is flowing through our whole being. Love is the truth of who we are. And in this higher state of consciousness, all else falls away. The pieces fall into place. Let me repeat that quote from Beckwith. In God awareness, problems dissolve because there are no real problems. In the mind of God, there are only perfect patterns of existence and divine ideas. Those taboo topics, they're transformed when we shine the light of spiritual truth on the situation and trust the unfoldment. Now here's another thought about taboo topics. It's not just that we would rather keep the peace than talk about them. It's also that we might be afraid what others will think about us if we disagree with them. We have to face our fears of what could happen. Well, what if we challenge the status quo? Are we going to stand out? Or maybe we'll fail. What if we'll look foolish or out of sync with the accepted norms of the society? You know, even worse, we might think we could die if things get stirred up too much. So let's just stay safe. It's not great, but there's so much more. So what is ours to do? You know, in the Bible, there's the story of the Good Samaritan, a man who was beaten, robbed, and left to die on the side of the road to Jericho. Do we want to be like the priest and the Levite? You know, both well-respected men that when they walked by and saw the man, they refused to get involved. They walked past and just left him there. And then there was a Samaritan who rescued the man, tended to his wounds, and lifted him up on his donkey and carried him to the inn farther down the road. The Samaritan left him there and paid for his care. Jewish people of that time typically looked down on the Samaritans because they were the other tribe. But who was the best neighbor that day? Who lived his life from oneness? Who was willing to take action? He wasn't avoiding the appearances or being confused. He listened to that inner calling to the oneness of Spirit. Ernest Holmes talks about this issue from The Science of Mind. We will not refuse to help the helpless or lift up the fallen, but we will refuse to wallow in the mud because of our sympathies. Right? We won't spend time standing around saying, woe is me, and complaining about how awful things are. No, we want to shift from seeing the problem, because that will keep growing as long as we're seeing that problem, to flipping the coin over to the other side and seeing the solution, seeing the wholeness, and focusing on what we need to do to create that wholeness and love in the world. You know, it's really easy to participate in a spiritual bypass. You know, our ego can be very successful in disguising the appearance of God in all things and in all people. We can get confused. It's a spiritual bypass when we're dealing with something like racism. We say, oh, I just don't see color. Well, color of a person's skin does in fact affect how we perceive them, how we treat them, even though it might be very subtle, but it does, or how we let other people treat each other, right? We say, oh, let's not get political. But will everyone be treated fairly and equitably if we don't stand up for what is right? for the good of all people? What if we just turn off the TV and don't watch? Does it go away? No. It just is just there in the background. So we don't, as religious scientists, we don't want to fail to address obvious societal issues. That would be a spiritual bypass. Now, another challenge is when we try to differentiate between the spiritual and the secular. We are saying that these things are not a part of God. Instead, what we want to do is name the condition, know the truth, and it's that spiritual truth underneath. The condition is temporary, ephemeral. The truth, the spiritual truth, is always that wholeness, because where God is. And so we want to invest more energy in the truth than in that experience. And speaking about watching TV, watching the news is really an active prayer session. It's like being a practitioner and take action, speak out. I know one practitioner, when you're in a practitioner session with her, she takes notes, and she writes down, and so the whole time you're writing, she'll just write down a word or two periodically. And what she's focusing on is the spiritual truth underneath. So she'll be writing, if she hears something about harmony and arguing, and so she'll write down harmony or love or peace or whatever it is that she wants to focus on. And this practice helps us to discover what is ours to do. The Global Heart Vision is the overall Centers for Spiritual Living vision of the world that we would like to see. And so one phrase from there is, we envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. That's a lot of words, but it's about taking individually, focusing on that higher consciousness and seeing it manifesting in the world. I'd like to tell you a story about a woman. Next slide, Michael. Her name is Wangari Maathai. She's a Kenyan woman. She was born in 1940, died in 2011. And when she grew up, few Kenyan girls were ever educated, but she was fortunate enough not only to graduate from a Catholic girls' high school, and she was one of 300 Kenyan students selected in June 1960 through the Kennedy Airlift Project, which was funded by the Kennedy family to study in the United States. And Barack Obama's father was one of the people that came over in the Kennedy Airlift. Now, Maathai earned a Bachelor of Science in Biology and then a master's degree from the University of Pittsburgh. It was there that she first got interested in environmental restoration. When she returned to Kenya to start a teaching position, she discovered that her position had been given to someone else, due most likely to gender and tribal bias. Now, although Maathai earned a PhD in biology later from the University of Nairobi in her own country, she continued to face issues of gender and tribal bias and political opposition throughout her life. It's quite a story. But she kept at it. And this didn't stop her from eventually starting the Greenbelt movement. She obtained foundation funding to pay women in rural Kenya a small stipend to plant trees in order to combat deforestation, restore their main sources of fuel for cooking, to generate income, and to stop soil erosion, very important. And her organization has been responsible for planting 51 million trees since it was first started. And Maathai has incorporated advocacy and empowerment for women, ecotourism, and overall economic development into the Greenbelt movement. Her goal was radical action against the systemic causes of rural poverty. It wasn't just about the environment. It all goes together, right? Well, in 2004, Matai was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, the first African woman to earn a Nobel Prize. When asked, "What is the difference between the spiritual and the secular?" Matai replied, next slide, "I never differentiated between activities that might be called spiritual and those that might be termed secular. I came to recognize that our efforts weren't only about planting trees, but were also about sowing seeds of a different sort, the ones necessary to give communities the self-confidence and self-knowledge to rediscover their authentic voice and to speak out on behalf of our rights, human, environmental, civic, and political." Now, in New Thought, we are similarly sowing seeds in every area of our lives, no matter what they are. This is why we say, it's all God. Now, here's another example of how healing begins with a shift in consciousness, when we face those taboo subjects and speak the truth. In Israel, 600 Israeli and Palestinian families have formed an organization called the Parent Circle Families Forum, the PCFF. So each family has lost a loved one in the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Each mother, each father, each brother or sister, each son or daughter has experienced a devastating loss in their family. And as they came together, united by their bereavement, they moved from pain to hope. They realized that both Jewish and Palestinian families wanted the same thing, to live in peace and harmony so they could raise their families with love. When they asked themselves the question, "This too is God?" the answer was yes. Yes, they realized that God could only want everyone to live in peace. It wasn't one against the other. It was one for each other. The Parent Circle now advocates for reconciliation and partnership. They believe that continued fighting will only create further loss of life. Only when the fighting stops can the parties negotiate a peace settlement that everyone can accept. Founding the Parent Circle Partnership was a holy uprising, building on the understanding that we are all one in spirit. As one people, one human race, we can learn to live in peace and harmony. It's important to spend time raising your own consciousness. One of the David Hawkins books that Sue Pipel's book study has been reading is Transcending the Levels of Consciousness. Hawkins explains the path to enlightenment as the ego's journey from low levels of consciousness to higher levels. He says, the power of the infinite field of consciousness and its infinite potentiality manifests as matter. So that's the life reflecting back, as Rick was talking about this morning. So Hawkins created a logarithmic scale of consciousness that's, it lists the different, from the lowest vibration level at 1, which is just simply existing, up to the highest level of 1,000, which has only been attained by a few avatars such as Jesus, Buddha, and Krishna, who became enlightened. Now the lower levels are associated with the ego, like shame and guilt, and they're down at levels about 20 or 30. And the hatred is about 150. But mystics have always known that love, which is level 500, about halfway to that enlightenment, that it's always more powerful than hatred and all of these things that are controlled by the ego. So consequently, a person who has evolved to raise their consciousness to function at the level of love in all situations can counterbalance, get this, 750,000 individuals who operate below level 200. One person can counterbalance 750,000 people. Our spiritual practice is really powerful. Clearly, our time spent in meditation and exploring the higher levels of consciousness supports the evolution of the whole human race towards enlightenment. In a quote from his book, Power versus Force, he says, "In this interconnected universe, every improvement we make in our private world improves the world at large for everyone. Simple kindness to oneself and all that lives is the most powerful transformational force of all. So, bringing all of these ideas together, we dwell in the consciousness of oneness of God, even when the appearances suggest the absence of the divine. Whether we're aware of it or not, this is the truth. And so in our spiritual communities, we cannot merely gloss over the genuine issues in the world and hide behind the platitudes where the storms, just wait until the storms pass. In times of social unrest, our community has the opportunity to apply the teachings of Ernest Holmes and Science of Mind, among others, to find what is ours to do individually and as a community. Using the principles of oneness, we can allow these uncomfortable topics to help us deepen our spiritual practices, to grow our compassion, and then take divinely inspired action in the world. So I'd like to finish this morning with a loving kindness meditation. And this is a wonderful practice that you can use to center yourself and then have that ripple out into the world. So get comfortable in your chair. And this is called the loving kindness meditation. So relax. Breathing in and out slowly. Allow yourself to be drawn to the center of your being, where you know, first, that God is all there is, everywhere present. And second, that you are one with God. Luxuriate in this truth with every breath. Sense the wholeness and peace that infuse your being. Say to yourself, may I be happy. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness and peace. And repeat it until you feel loving, loved, and peaceful. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness and peace. And now think of a person close to you that you love. Imagine them in front of you with a smile on their face. Send them loving thoughts. Say to yourself, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness and in peace. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness and peace. Feel a clear, peaceful, and loving connection with your beloved. And now think of a person with whom you are having some difficulty. And see that person in front of you. Say to them, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness and peace. Observe how your feelings change when you think about this person. Repeat until you feel a clear, peaceful and loving connection with the person. If you feel resistance, remember that you are only focusing on your own awareness. There is in reality no separation. So you are only calmly opening up your own awareness to the divine truth of oneness. Everything else is falling away. All that is required is your willingness to let go and let God be your truth. Let divine love fill your being full to overflowing. Repeat again. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness and peace. And when you feel the warmth and wholeness fill your body, turn your attention to the entire world. Extend your love, kindness, and forgiveness everywhere. And say, may everyone be happy. May everyone be well. May everyone be filled with loving kindness and peace. In your mind, see everyone, all races, all cultures, all ages, all countries, all political groups, and say, may you all be happy. May you all be well. May you all be filled with loving kindness and peace. And when you are ready, give gratitude for the love and peace you feel in your own soul and the world. All is well. All is well. And so it is. And so as we come back into the room, I'm going to ask Subra to welcome us with one more song.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you.
Thank you, Subra. So I can feel that peace and love, loving kindness just rippling out into the world. So this brings us to the next part of our service, when we get to affirm our prosperity, our divine prosperity that flows through our lives. And we have our prosperity affirmation. Yes, there we go. So if you would repeat with me, I gratefully and joyfully share my offering which flows from God, my infinite source. My gift blesses this center and all who are guided, healed, and empowered by its activities. All I share with life returns to me blessed and multiplied. And so it is. So we know that there are many ways to share your offering. By credit or debit card, with using PayPal, send us a check. You'll be able to stop by the center. But until we're there, when we have a real offering basket, we have this virtual offering basket that we ask to share with you. And so we know that God is our infinite source, as we know that that is the truth of all beings, and that infinite love, that infinite prosperity that is what is flowing through our lives and through the life of this center. And so we bless these offerings as they come forward, and we know that all is well, all is good. There is only this flow of spirit which sustains us in every way. Life is good, prosperous, joyous, and wonderful in every way. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. And so it is. And join me in our offertory song with Karen Drucker.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful
Okay. If you want to, we're all unmuting me. So if you want to, would like to be on our newsletter and receive that and know about other Sunday services and all the things that are happening in our center, you can go on our website and sign up and ask to receive our newsletter. It's a great thing that we'll be sending to you. And we have some announcements today, and so I'd like to welcome our Associate Minister, Reverend Rick Carney, to lead us through the announcements.
Thank you, Reverend Pam. As everyone knows, wait a second, I missed my cue there. There we are. As everyone knows, that we are in the midst of a pandemic, and we are now starting to make plans, however, for our reopening process for Sunday services, as well as the office and classes and events sometime in the month of June. But until then, these events will all continue online, and we will continue in a hybrid format for those who are not able to come to the center in person. So there's an option of both in-person and online participation. You can find these announcements and the Zoom links in our contact email, our Facebook page, and our webpage, www.tahoecsl.org. You can also find us on Instagram. Our new webpage will be debuting very soon, so please stay tuned. And you can always call the office, leave a message if you need assistance or prayer. Next week, Reverend Pam will be returning to continue the Holy Holy Uprising series with a talk, Say Their Names. She'll be joined by Colleen Akiko playing music, and Carol Galban will be our practitioner. On May 22nd, Michael Sundholm will be back and joining us in leading the Adopt a Highway event, which will be from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This is an active community service that we perform monthly, cleaning up 1 mile of Highway 267. And please meet up in the first parking lot of the Kingswood Village. Vests and grabbing tools and bags will be provided. Please do bring your own mask and water, however. We want to say a very special CSL Tahoe-Truckee thank you to Tom and Nancy O'Neill, who yesterday were able to find and bring to the center 2 picnic tables that the River Ranch was giving away. And Tom took it on himself to load these things into his trailer, to bring them to the center, to do the necessary repairs, to make them fully serviceable once again. And so we have the opportunity to enjoy the out of doors and these wonderful tables. Thank you so much, Tom and Nancy O'Neill. We'll probably be using these in our first outdoor session at the center on May 30th. Reverend Victoria Bonberry will be our guest speaker that day, and after service, we'll convene to the outdoor activities and then have a workshop on the spirituality and nature that she calls Reenchanting Everyday Life. This is part of her virtual ministry, and she will be bringing forth all types of indigenous knowledge and ways of seeing the world that she will be sharing with us. We ask that you bring your own water and perhaps a folding chair as mask if you and your children are not yet vaccinated, so we can still practice social distancing. And you can read about Reverend Victoria in the April edition of the Science of Mind magazine. As I mentioned, she is creating this focus ministry, which she will call Winged Spirit. So she will be sharing her Native American heritage and traditions with us. So please call the center to pre-register for this event. The cost is $25 for adults and $5 for children who must be accompanied by their parents. Our regular activities are continuing, not just our celebration service, but on Monday and Tuesday mornings, our practitioners lead a meditation at 8:30 a.m. It's a great way to start the day. We will not be having a Wednesday event, as I will be traveling next week and returning the following week. But in the month of June, we'll look forward to resuming our Wednesday events. On Thursday, Chris Worcester, who leads the Tai Chi class, he's also on break. He'll be returning during June. Mary McEnany and Penny Scholler leading meditation on Thursdays. And then Sue Pipel, who is taking a break for the next couple of weeks, will be returning on May 28th with Course in Love. And then on June 18th, we're letting go. There's always something going on at CSL Tahoe-Truckee, so we encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities to be part of our spiritual life. And with that, I return the microphone to Reverend Pam.
All right, so I do want to recognize our practitioners that are here with us. And so Reverend Rick was the practitioner of the day, and so he would be glad to pray with you if you would like prayer. We also have Carol Delbon is here with us, and Shirley Clark, and Nancy O'Neill, although I don't see her face right now. And Michael Brandman, I know, is studying very assiduously for his exam, which is next Saturday. He will not be cleaning the highway. He will be working on his exam. So, but anyway, that's what we love to do, and we know that prayer makes a difference. We are getting ready to have our peace song with Chris Law, and then our affirmation slide, followed by our hospitality time. So, you could, yes, there we go.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begin with me. Let this be the moments now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begin with me. Let this be the moments now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
All right, Michael, do we have our affirmation? There we go. Okay, if you would read this along with me. I have no problem. I have no big problems. I tell my problems about my big God. And so it is.